Alright guys, back in with another video, and it's been a while since I've made a Yu-Gi-Oh deck profile, but shout out to Team Wise guys. I'm playing a little bit more than I used to, and yeah, I mean, we're in between like ban lists for Dragon Ball, so I've been playing this and trying to gather the cards, and I got a few gift cards from work, so I decided to get some money cards that I needed. But yeah, Harpies, I won locals last week. I've been playing this deck basically quite often. Like, if I ever could play Yu-Gi-Oh! Locals at all lately, I've been playing this deck. It's the only deck I've been playing for the last year or so. But I keep editing it and getting new cards to support it and whatnot. But yeah, this is the best list that I came up with. There are a few tech cards you can take out, and I'll go into detail later. But you got 3 Channeler to start the engine. Discard any Harpie card, especially any Harpie from deck. Your main target, Harpie Perfumer. This card can add any of the spells from your deck that have Harpie Lady Scissors in its name. I'll show you the targets in a little bit. But this card is one of your best normal summons, and this is one of your best like special summon targets from deck. But yeah, these cards just in general as an engine is really strong. But you do need to make sure you have enough Harpies for this discard, so you got to play a good amount. And your best discard target is Harpist. But lately I've been getting Drolled a lot, so this hasn't resolved as much as I would have wanted to. But I haven't missed it one time that I can remember. It's like a Sangan effect during the end phase. Add a Harpie, 14 less. 2 Harpie Lady 1. This is your target for Elegant Egotist. This boosts all wind monsters by 300. So it makes, when you get 2 of these on the board, they're 19 each, which is nice. And it makes all of your Harpies, for the most part, other than this one, 20k. And this one will be 23. But usually that doesn't really come up that much. You go in your extra deck with them and try to shuffle them back in your deck so you can keep using Elegant Egotist. 1 Harpie Oracle. This card is super good as a one of. I was thinking you need 2, but 1 is perfect. This card you can special from your hand if you control a level 5 or higher Harpie, and then at end phase, when it's normal or special summon during this turn, you could add a Harpie spell. Basically, the same thing as Perfumer, but from the graveyard, but during the end phase. So it's a really cool effect, and you abuse this with your link during your opponent's end turn, and just like doing special summon Perfumer, this also helps you loop some of your spells, which is nice. We'll go into detail more about that when we get to the other spells. And then 1 Queen to round out the Harpie lineup. Not that necessary in all honesty, but it does help. And it's an easy card to side out, so take that in note. Discard a card, add the Hunting Ground. The Perfumer can grab the Hunting Ground as well, so this is not that great, but it is a 19k beater you can bring back, and it's just a good card. Not that necessary. You got 1 Barrier Statue. This is a card I side out quite often, but I shouldn't in some cases, and I keep learning when not to. But I do side this out sometimes going second. But if you do break their board and then you're able to make some more and play this, which is really nice. But yeah, basically both players can only spend on wind monsters. Doesn't hurt this deck at all. And last monsters in deck 3 Ash Blossom. I will go into a few decks that you can play for the format, but I side them currently. But Ash Blossom's been really good as like a generic card in the main. To the spells, this is kind of pricey, I know. 3 Pot of Prosperity. And all honestly, this deck abuses this card very well. Not abuses it, but really needs it after playtesting it without and then with. You can get away with this card if you draw well, but this does make your deck more consistent over the rounds. You have to try to play around your own cards. You don't want to draw certain cards, but so you try to thin your deck first. But you don't draw directly, which is nice with this card. That's why you can't play Desires or Extravagance when you have access to this card. But you can play Extravagance if you want to, but this is a lot better, and makes you choose your extra cards you want specifically that you don't need. And this deck doesn't that rely on extra deck, so you are able to use this for 6 or 9 cards in total in the game, which is nice. But it just helps you dig for your starter cards like your Channeler and your Perfumer, and if you don't see one, and if you have those, it helps you dig for cards like Hysteric Sign. And this card, when it's activated, you get to add Elegant Egotist, and Elegant Egotist, I'll play 2 copies. And during the end phase, if this card is sent to the graveyard by any means, if you didn't activate the first effect, you get to add 3 Harpie cards, which is super powerful and does come up Especially if your opponent. I was trying to let my opponents know what it did before they did their play, even if they had the opportunity to run into it with my Link Monster, just because it's locals and I wanted to make sure that they know what's going on, and they still let me get it sometimes. This is one of your main targets from your Perfumer. This is one of your other targets. And this is like a mini pot of avarice. If you have a level 5 or higher on board, you get to draw 2. If not, you just draw 1, shuffle 3 Harpies back into the deck, and then first turn you can summon wind monsters. That part's not really relevant unless you're trying to go for a silly play. But it does help you recycle your extra deck monsters, and sometimes just mainly your Harpie Lady 1s is what you want to do with it, because you only have 2 Egotists, but you keep looping them back with your sign the more you draw them. 1 Hunting Ground. This card has been phenomenal for this current format, and I was tempted to just side this card, but it's really good after playing in this format, because you just pop your own sign and help you get more degenerate cards to your hand. Like, you can search your Feather Duster with sign. Can't search this with Perfumer or Oracle or anything like that, but this card is really good whenever you get it off a sign during your opponent's end phase. 2 Droplet. Now, this card is super busted in this deck, and mainly because you send sign on your opponent's turn, and during the end phase you get to add 3 cards, which is insane. So if you do have a 3rd copy, you can play it. Depends on what you have at your disposal, but 2 has been fine for me. It also helps you protect your barrier statue when you set that play up, so I may end up buying a 3rd copy eventually, but they are expensive, and I don't want to really grab the secret rare. I'd rather have the ultis. So I went ahead and got those. I did have secrets a little while back. I never got to play in tournament. They were too high for me to keep them for secret rares. 1 Call by the Grave, really phenomenal card. 1 Monster Reborn. This is one tech options you can play or not play, but it does help if you get Effect Veilered or if you get hit by anything to stop your play and you don't have, like, say for example, you have your normal summon Channeler, pitch, and then you can bring back the card you pitched, or if you pitch Queen, you can bring it back and keep going. But it just helps you keep going if you need some type of extender. And then one of your cheeky win cons is Utopia Double into Utopia for 10k damage straight to the face. If you can successfully bait at your opponent's cards and basically make sure there's no interactions to Utopia, which you can sometimes do that with this card. This will just win the game. You got Harpie's Feather Storm. This card is super good. This is hands down the reason why you play the deck. If you control a Harpie, you can put this card in your hand as a hand trap, and it turns off all monster effects that your opponent would activate for this turn. That includes hand traps like Ash Blossom, Droll. So sometimes when you normal summon a Perfumer or Channeler and they activate Droll at the resolution, if you have a lot more searches that turn, which sometimes can happen, like your pot and all that, you can hit them with this, and you can keep going. Especially if it's really relevant for what you like. If you need it resolved that bad. But this is a turn stopper, like Deep Barrier for all monster effects. 3 impermanents to round up the hand trap portion. This could technically be other cards. There are other cards that are decent for the format, like Bell and Droll and other things like that. But I just went with the standard Ash and Imperm for my hand traps, along with this for more effect negation, basically. But yeah, super good card. And then 1 Party. This card didn't come up during the tournaments that I played into recently, but when it does come up, like when I was in Florida and I got 3-1 with this deck, this card was just a blowout whenever it does resolve after you do your full plays. 40 card deck. I try to make it super consistent. Let's go to the extra deck. Got 2 Slash. This is one of your main extra deck cards. You do need at least 2 copies of this card. 2 is fine, but this is basically what you do to set up your little avarice play. It bounces cards to get around like destruction effects. It's also a beater, and it has an effect if your opponent activates a spell or a trap while it's on board. You can bounce one of the monsters. So this card's super good. 1 Conductor. This is a one-of that's just fine. You sometimes use it whenever you're trying to make sure that you got a recovery play with sign. So if they attack into your Conductor or one of your Harpies, you can just pop your sign and get 3 free searches at in phase. Super busted. Once more, this card's silly. Gets the statue, or you can send during your opponent's end phase. You can, or during your end phase, you can summon Perfumer and get free search, or add back engraved with the I can't think right now. the Oracle, sorry. And yeah, basically that's what it's for. And it makes it where your dudes can't be targeted, which is really nice. So this helps you against Sky Striker. One win. This could technically be anything, but I wanted a generic link too that was decent. And then I have Unicorn, so just generic removal. These cards, some of these cards could be swapped out for something else in reality. I don't have a Zeus currently, so that's one thing you can swap out one of them for. One Castell. It's kind of relevant because it's a wing beast, and it's also wind, so it can help you get around some of the floodgates. Lightning Chidori, super good with Zeus if I have one, so that's something to note. Set your opponent back a turn. These come up, all of these come up for the most part. The one that hasn't came up is Exciton Knight, Dweller, and that's Rhapsody, by the way. Tornado Dragon comes up, popping your sign, popping your opponent's cards when on their turn, get free searches, but it is a worm, so you can't get the free wombo combo to activate Trap during your phase without having them on board already. Utopia double package, and I do play Lightning. This card's actually been really clutch lately. To the side deck, 2 Cosmic Cyclone, 1 Lightning Storm. This could be, this is up to preference. Damage collect rare that came in my case. Sad boy hours. 3 Phantasme, super good in this deck, but be aware that it does turn your channeler into a level 7 monster. This is something that used to come up in one of my old builds when I played the regionals with this deck a while back. 1 Pankratops, could go in second card. 2 Bell, 2 Droll, 2 Lancey, and 2 Crow. Crow's been really good. Lancey is good against Invoked and stuff like that, but they have ways to play around it. Droll's really good against that deck too. So, but yeah, thank you guys for watching once again. And it's been a while since I've done a You Get It profile, so it's kind of fun to do this. But thank you guys for watching. Please smash that like button and give us a subscription if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Deuces.